Well, I'll think about it. Maybe I
Okay.
do. I know a David, oh gosh, he kind of manages cabins up there. I can't think of his last name, and I know him. I'm too old. But I don't know if he's Jewish. I'm trying to think. Well, that's a wonderful thing. So you're
Yeah, it was a random question.
That's good. Good.
Okay.
Well, Jessica, what do you think? Shall we call the meeting to order?
Yep, as of John popping on, we have our 7 folks for a quorum. So
Wonderful. So I call the meeting to order, and have you established a quorum? I think you have, right? Do we need to do introductions? It says on the agenda here. Whoops. Can you hear me?
We all know each other. We can hear you. I think we're all just paused to be like,
Yeah, no introductions. Hi, everybody. Okay, so the consent items, the agenda, the minutes, and the board financial reports. So I guess we need a motion to approve or accept consent to all 3 items. We could do that all at once. So somebody move.
we need a motion.
Patty Bencher, I move to approve consent items.
Thank you. And
Roy
hopefully we have a
Rosenthal.
second.
Roy Rosenthal, second.
Thank you, Roy. All those in favor, say aye.
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 I'm raising my hand because sometimes I'm on mute. Okay. So next on the agenda, do we have any public comments that came in? Jessica, do we have any public comments?
None were received via email.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, then first up, this is going to be such a great fast meeting. First up, information items, PPACG CDOT 10-year plan. Danielle.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm actually going to turn this over shortly to Shane Ferguson from CDOT to walk you through this informational item. We did present this at the TAC meeting earlier this month. And I can't recall, I don't think we've talked with you guys at all about this, but we are going to have a workshop with our TAC group early in January to work on some of the 10-year development, 10-year plan development with CDOT. Shane, are you on? Can you walk the group through this?
I am. Good
Thank you.
afternoon, Shane Ferguson. I'm the North Program Engineer here in Colorado Springs with CDOT. Jessica, if you could, I'll have you scroll on down to the plan. I'll kind of walk through the plan. There we go. So this is our 10-year capital improvement plan, and or at least the draft. And I'll talk about what we did a couple of years ago, which is also reflected on this sheet. But this is the time that we need to start working on what's our next round of major capital projects. And so I want to clarify what's not listed here are your standard surface treatment type projects, your safety improvement projects, intersection improvement projects, like signalization, that type of thing. And so some of your smaller dollar projects are not reflected on this 10-year plan. This is really for major capital improvement projects like interchanges and added capacity, overpasses, et cetera. And really we fund these projects out of like Senate Bill 267 or the federal stimulus bills. And so this is what's going to be going forward coming up for this next round of projects. And so what I have listed here is on the very top, about 2 years ago, we developed a 10-year plan identifying major capital improvement projects here in Colorado Springs or in the PPACG area and identify priority for these projects. And so you'll see number 1 being Research and Powers Boulevard and the MAMSIP project, which is I25 and State Highway 94 and Charter Oaks Ranch Road and South Academy. And then we have a ramp metering phase 2 project. And then we have another auxiliary acceleration and deceleration lane extension between Fillmore and Garden of the Gods project. Those 4 projects in yellow at the very top of the page, those were your priorities, number 1 through 4 in the first round about 2 years ago. Happy to say that every one of these are either under construction or in design and plan to go to construction here very soon. The funding for construction for all these projects have been identified and secured. And so that is the top part of this page. That second section of white, okay, above the yellow, or I'm sorry, above the blue line, that was identified by PPACG as the second tier of projects. So if we got additional funding, we wanted to prioritize the next level and next tier of projects. And so if you look on the very left side, you'll see a current priority 5, 6, 7, and 8. And on the very left of that, you saw current 5 to 10 year pipeline projects. And so that was essentially your second tier of projects. If we got the first tier 1 through 4 finished and completed, this is what we would move on to next. Since these have not been funded for construction and we are now getting different sources of funding through the federal stimulus as well as Senate Bill 267, it's time to open this back up and say, is this your priority for the next round? If it is, so be it. But also we want to identify what would be the second tier of this next section or this next round of projects. And so that's where you have that white section below the blue line. And so next to that current priority column from 5 through 8, we have a proposed priority where we have 5, 6, 13, 8 on down 7 through 14 and 12 and 11. That is the, I would say, draft priority of projects that we're considering and looking at and wanted to bring before PPACG to discuss and identify, is this your priority or next round of priority of projects? And that's where we're going here over the next few months. This today is an informational, this is an introduction. We have a workshop set up, I believe, January 7th with the TAC board to go through this next round of projects. And then as you scroll across from left to right on this sheet, we have it identified on the corridor, the project description, planned allocated funding. That is funding that is currently identified to be planned to be utilized for these projects. And then we have total project cost. And then we'll have planned add date, which again is not really identified at this time for these projects, just because we do not have construction funding secured. That planned allocated funding column is really going to be utilized more so for design, right-of-way acquisition, utilities relocation or utilities design if we need to, that type of thing, environmental documents, etc. And so now I'll go down to the bottom of the sheet is the gray section. That is additional projects that could be brought up to that white section if you choose, if PPACG chooses to be identified as that next round of projects. So I'll briefly go through the white section of projects. On the top of that white section, the priority currently identified as priority number 5, we have the airport and Powers DDI interchange. That was identified as your next, I'd say 5 to 10 year priority projects originally 2 years ago. We secured design funding of $4 million from Senate Bill 260 to move that project forward. That project is currently started design. Next down the list is US 24 East widening from Garrett to Woodman Road. That is widening to a 2-lane section each direction. Next on the list is phase 1 of the I25 HOV lanes from Cimarron to North Nevada. This is part of our environmental document that is called out through that I-25 corridor. That would be adding an additional lane, and that would be identified as an HOV lane, currently identified as an HOV lane through that section of highway. Next on the list is US 24 West over Ridge Road. On down, we have State Highway 67, north of Woodland Park, safety and drainage study, or I'm sorry, drainage improvements, not study. On down, we have a I-25 safety and operational improvements exit 135 South Academy to 138. That is also part of our environmental document on I-25, where this would be the first phase for widening shoulders in that section, as well as replacing bridges. If you're familiar with that location, we have 2 overpasses. One is a railroad bridge that goes into Fort Carson, and another one is State Highway 85 over I-25. those are both going to be challenging bridges to design and replace. And so that's why we're doing a kind of a first phase, if you will, as well as widening of the shoulders. Next on the list is Powers Boulevard, Milton Proby Parkway, grade separated interchange. We believe that is after the Airport Road and Powers interchange location. That would be the next interchange to start working on, just considering how much development is down there, especially commercial development, considering Amazon warehouse, et cetera, that's going into that area. We're seeing, projecting quite a bit of increase in traffic in that area. On down the list, which we've identified as probably closer to the bottom of the years 1 through 10 list, is the US 24 I25 grade separated interchange. And then on down, we have Powers Boulevard and Dublin interchange, and rounding up the top, or rounding up the finish of the 1 to 10 year list is US 24 East. Continuing on from the Garrett to Woodman Road, we would continue from Woodman to Stapleton, and that would be a 2-lane section each direction as well. Now, this white section, I've identified a number of projects with the total project cost associated with it. We will need to whittle down and prioritize this list. We will identify, and CDOT's working on those numbers now, and fiscally constrain that list. And so highly unlikely that all projects on this white list will be part of your 1 to 10 year plan. This is just a, I'd say, a first brush through as a draft to identify what CDOT sees as potential priorities, and open up the discussion with PPACG based off of, our traffic volume, safety, increased capacity needs, or intersection improvements, and we've run from there. So is this document on the meeting information? Jessica, I have to ask if you can answer that question. I believe that's part of your informational packet. Is that correct? Yeah, so to answer the chat question, yes, it is part of that packet. And so again, I really want to stress that this is a draft 1 to 10 year plan at this point. We'll be soliciting the input from PPACG. And once we also have that fiscal constraint, that'll whittle down the how many projects and what type of projects we can really identify for this 1 to 10 year plan. So this is really kind of a first brush through, if you will. All right, that is my informational, long-witted. I know you said, Ms. Foster, this is gonna be a short meeting, but I extended it.
No, this was very informative.
So,
Are there any questions?
I have a question. This is Paul Wiggins.
sure.
And this is for Shane, right?
Yes, sir.
So my question is on, I know you mentioned safety is probably last, because you said these are not in the safety is probably not in the top, 5 to 10 years. Who do we talk to about number 11, that east widening of Woodman and Stapleton?
Mhm.
Like a traffic light there, because if you're coming from Shreveport off Curtis, it's
Yeah.
hard to cross. It's hard to cross 24 to get to Stapleton. You're sitting
Yeah.
there forever, and it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, so I want to clarify one thing. Safety is always a part of it, and we do our safety projects that are specific for safety are not included in this list, but which does not mean they're not going to be done. It's just not part of these major, if you will, capital improvement style type of projects. Now, as to who you would speak to, I'd say I would speak with the TAC members and also your county commissioners, and I let them know of your desire to see that elevated in priority. And so I think TAC members for El Paso County, right, is Victoria Chavez, as well as Jennifer Irvine being the county engineer, obviously. And then as far as the county commissioner, I'm not sure who your county commissioner is in that area. Stan Vanderwerf is the county commissioner, and I forgot, Jessica, you probably have to help me with who else is on the board as part of the county commissioners. But that's who I would speak with to emphasize your desire to see that elevated in priority.
Any other questions?
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I was muted again.
Okay,
That does
great.
help. And
All right.
I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that concern out in this area now.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a quick question just to make sure I understand what I'm reading. So as an example, number 14, US 24/21st grade separated interchange.
Yep.
And so I'm familiar with that intersection. So when it says grade separated interchange, are we talking about a bridge over I-20 or over 24 or?
That is correct. That is a grade separated. So we're talking about an interchange location there. And I will say these projects are part of our an environmental document study that was done on each of these corridors. And so the environmental study on US 24, I believe, was completed in 2014. As part of that preferred alternative identified in that environmental document, US 24 and 21st Street was identified as a grade separated interchange based off of the function of that planned function of US 24 going east or going west out of Colorado Springs, which there's a grade separated interchange here at 21st Street, as well as Street, the overpass at Ridge Road. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if there are any others. I don't believe 26 is grade separated, and I know 31st is not either. And so I think those are the only locations identified in the environmental document as grade separated. And so, yes, when I say grade separated, it is 24 over 21st Street, or vice versa, 21st over 24. I'd have to go back and look and see what was designed and planned, but yes.
And so the idea is that somehow having that bridge will improve the environmental, improve the environment by not having cars just all stopped and idling for so long and that kind of thing. Is that the thinking?
No, so we prepare an environmental document anytime we make major improvements on highways. And so what the environmental document does is study what are the impacts of an improved project or a project of improvement along that corridor. And so as part of that, they do look at, does it improve air quality? Does that improve our cultural resources? How does that impact our cultural resources? How does it impact communities? And so that environmental document has, and it's my God, these things are hundreds of pages in size, but they look at every cultural resource and alternative possible to identify what are the impacts potential when we do a project like this, and what are the proposed mitigations to mitigate that type of impact as well. And so, for example, and don't quote me on this location, I'm not sure, but if it was a noise impact to a community, then the mitigation would be a noise wall and that type of thing. And so those are the things that are identified in an environmental document. And so that environmental document's federal rule, that is something that we all need to do to make these types of projects move forward. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
I've got a quick question. Is there a difference between an overpass and a grade separated interchange?
Yeah, so the overpass at Ridge Road does not have ramps. So there are not any access points to that area. So it's essentially an overpass, and then Ridge Road will cross underneath US 24. And if you're familiar with that location, that's Red Rocks Canyon. And then
yeah, I'm very familiar with it.
Yeah.
So once that's built, we will not be able to get off onto Ridge Road.
That is correct. Not at that location. It would be, I think, 31st Street as the access point where you'd come back to the east.
That's interesting, because 31st Street is a really super busy intersection.
Yeah,
and
31st.
And the way they've done it now with the traffic light at Ridge Road in Colorado, more people are using Ridge Road, which takes some pressure off 31st Street.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and honestly, those are some of the things that we would, as we move forward in the design, we would reevaluate the traffic impacts in the traffic circulations as well, and see if what needs to be done to continue to keep that traffic movement flowing through the area.
Okay, and when you do re-examine that, will we be notified, and will there be a chance to give input?
Yeah, so usually what happens on these types of projects is there will be an opening of that environmental document. It'll open back up essentially, and we will, quote unquote, reevaluate some of the impacts. Not all of them. Some of them, I would say, expire. So, for example, hazmat. But as part of that, we still have public meetings and just a discussion as to what was proposed and what's been moving forward and what some of the open impacts are.
Okay, thank you.
Shane, I just had a question and a comment. This is Patty Benger. With the I25 Colorado Springs Ramp Metering, phase 2 is noted here. How many
Yes.
phases are there, and when is the final completion of that?
So phase 2, we just had our contractor meeting today. So we're getting ready to get started on that. I believe we have the phase 3 identified, and I cannot remember what ramps are located in that location. Right now, we do not have it really identified in the near future. It's not part of this, obviously, capital improvement. I think through phase 1 and phase 2, we truly hit upon our most concerned locations. So phase 3, I would say is definitely in the future, but it's not, I don't want to say it's not urgent. It's just not as identified in priority right now. So.
Okay. And I also wanted to say congratulations to all of the CDOT team on the early completion of the South Gath project. All very thankful for that to be done on our end of town. And I know a lot of hard work was put into that. So thanks to everyone over there.
Absolutely appreciate that. We are all happy as well. We drive the corridor. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Shane. We appreciate that. We'll look forward to the progress.
All right.
Okay, next on the agenda is an action item. Danielle is going to address fiscal year 2023 to 27 tip draft public comment period. So take it away, Danielle.
Hello. Actually, that should be the adoption recommendation, the comment period.
I just read the paper in front of me. Sorry.
You are correct. That's what the agenda said. That was likely my mistake. But the memo is correct.
Okay. And I see the memo.
Yes, last month we came and talked to you a little bit about the public comment period for the fiscal year 23-27 tip, which is being done very close to the adoption of our previous tip or our current tip. The 22-25 tip was adopted in August. So there has not been much time that has passed between tips. And that was done to align with the state transportation improvement program, the STIP process with the state. And so I think because of that, and because of, going through our TAC and our CAC and our board as we do, we did not receive any public comments on our FY 22-27 tip. We did have two open houses, and we had a public hearing at our previous board meeting earlier in December. And so today we're just coming to you to ask for your recommendation to the board of directors to adopt this tip.
Okay, so it looks like we need a motion. The proposed motion recommend adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2027 Transportation Improvement Program to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors. So do I have a motion?
I actually have a question.
Okay.
Danielle, I noticed that there's a lot of electric buses and things like that added to this tip as we see that EVs are becoming more widely used as part of our greenhouse gas roadmap. I wondered if if there's any partnership with charging stations, or who is going to have those charging stations that are owned there? Is that something that will be owned by Mountain Metropolitan, and will that be used for the public or strictly for the buses?
That is a great question, and I do not directly have an answer for you. I can tell you two things. One is that, of course, I can reach out to MMT and our staff and verify that for you. The other item is that the city of Colorado Springs has an EV readiness plan that they have been in the progress of developing. I believe that goes to city council on the 10th of January.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, is it Danielle or a Danelle?
It's Dana. Thank
Danelle.
you.
I apologize.
No problem.
I guess we need a motion to recommend this, the adoption of this. Somebody give me a motion and a second, and then we can talk more.
Patty Venger, I recommend adoption of the fiscal year 2023-2027 Transportation Improvement Program to the PPACG Board of Directors.
Thank you, Patty. Do I have a second?
This is Gary Sugar. I'll second.
Thank you, Gary. So do we have more discussion before we put it to a vote? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Danelle. Now I know how to say your name right.
And I
Okay.
will follow up with you, Patty, about those EV chargers.
Sounds
Thank you
good, thank you.
for bringing that up.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any member discussion? We have quiet members today.
Well,
Oh, yeah, discussion. Go ahead, Patty.
sorry, I just can't be quiet today. I represent the city of Colorado Springs, but I'm also a Colorado Springs Utilities employee. And so as you know, the December 15th wind event was a huge event. And so I think by now people have figured out where to report down trees and power lines and things like that. Power has been restored to the entire our service area, but it was a big recovery there. So if you're not aware of, if you're in the city or even if you just work or visit here, there is a great app that the city has where you can report anything that you see, whether that's a street light out or a traffic sign that needs to be replaced, a pothole, anything like that. So it's a great place to report those kinds of things and you get feedback pretty quickly.
Thank you. My office was in an area that lost power and I saw how many trees were down and especially the old trees. It was so sad. But the utilities I know went above and beyond and worked their butts off. So I really appreciate it. Okay, whoops. I'm just quick looking at the chat to see if there's any questions there. Oh, no, that's good information. Thank you. Okay, any other member discussion? Items for the next CAC meeting. Oh, see this going fast now. Okay, PPACG meeting and event schedule. Jessica McMullen, you usually have 2 cents to say about this.
I don't, other than just you'll notice we've got some great meetings and the beginning of our 2022 Area Agency on Aging webinar series. Many of them will begin.
Will our next meeting of the CAC be in person or Zoom only?
It will be resume our hybrid setup so you can come in person or participate online.
Okay. So any other comments, questions, concerns before we can end the Zoom meeting? We can adjourn the fastest CAC meeting ever.
I'd like to tell Roy, I thought of the name.
Okay,
David Perlman, does that sound familiar?
well, I don't know the last name, but I'll ask them and I'll find out about it as it gets closer and I'll let you know, but that's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's a small world.
Right.
I'd like to let people know that Green Mountain Falls has hired a town manager and a clerk. So we're fully staffed now, almost. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Well, I guess we're going to adjourn the meeting. I don't need a motion to do that, do I? Okay, gavel's down, meeting adjourned. Great seeing you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Yep,
Great job, Miley.
Oh, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.